G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching the Wildkard Rugby Show. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yes, you are here today because it's time to read some rugby news. Yeah, a lot of news came out of Rugby Australia this week. We have to talk about. So yeah, let's get into it. First up, there is some report. The big report came out is that the Rugby Australia has accumulated a deficit of 36.8 million Australian dollars, which is about, I think about like what, 20 million, 25 million US dollars. Quite a lot of money, quite a big deficit. And this was obviously their reasoning is that they're spending money to prepare for the Lions tour. And there is going to be a surplus out of the Lions tour. There's, the estimate from Phil War is that the surplus is going to be 50 million Australian dollars, which includes like surplus. So it's going to be, it's not known. So it's going to be like maybe like $100 million. So it's going to cover the deficit that's going to be accumulating going into the Lions tour, and it's going to come out of the Lions tour with 50 million extra, right? So it's probably like, yeah, you're looking at close to $100 million in total, which I think is a pretty big number because the New Zealand tour only got a 40 million surplus for New Zealand rugby, but that is, 12 years ago or something. So it is possible that they'll walk out with a 50 million bonus money out of the pocket. But the big question, the big but here is the fact that once that's done, you have to wait another 12 years to accumulate another $50 million. Yeah, so it is definitely not it is something that it's basically, it's a big issue for pretty much all the Southern Hemisphere nations, Rugby Australia, New Zealand rugby, even to some extent South African rugby, that the Lions tour is like a bailout to these unions, and the money has to go 12 years till the next Lions tour before they can top up their coffers again. Now, Rugby Australia do have the benefit of the Rugby World Cup coming up, so that is going to also alleviate, give them more money, alleviate a lot more of that deficit that they're going to be having, so they can have a bigger buffer coming out of that. But yeah, just to be down $36.8 million dollars in 1 year, a 50 million bonus, it's going to run out pretty quickly in a few years. It's going to last you 12 years. And then also the Rugby World Cup as well. At this rate, it's not going to last you, after Rugby World Cup, you're probably never going to get one again for another 20 years, right? So, the math just doesn't quite add up. And that is in addition to, despite all the money that Rugby Australia is spending, they're not able to retain talents. As reported, the Rugby Australia actually went out and filed a complaint against World Rugby, accusing that the French rugby union is poaching players in Australia from a younger age. Obviously, there was a big profile poaching of a 16-year-old player from Brisbane, went to Churchie for La Rochelle, and Rugby Australia was, thinking that the player was too young to be considered for professional rugby yet, and feel like, this is French rugby shouldn't be doing that. Speaking of this, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Rugby Australia offers scholarships and stuff to Pacific Islanders, right? I mean, isn't that a fair game? I mean, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they do that. Or do they just not do that at 16 years of age? But they definitely do that at young adult level. I'm sure they do that. But it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like the what they say, the kettle calling the teapot black or something. I don't know. There was a saying, it's you're doing pretty much the same thing here. But yeah, it is what it is. Just, the Rugby Australia has a lot of problems they're going to have to figure out. And I think this, for me, I talked about this in the past. I think the fact that Rugby Australia, proposed the Indigenous Pacific Islander team to replace the Melbourne Rebels already indicates that they have no idea what they're doing, right? The Rugby, Australia has a, 90% of the population is excluded from this team. Australia is a multicultural country, and they're still pretending that, hey, only people that watches the rugby are, white eastern suburb, rich millionaires that cares about, political correctness. Most people in Australia don't, voted against this sort of stuff, and somehow they think that is still the direction that they should be going, and they wonder why, players, the young kids given an opportunity to go overseas, they're more than happy to jump on board and get out of the system. And this kid is he is pretty sure he's like Pacific Islander as well. So it's definitely not because he didn't virtue signal enough. Rugby Australia, let me tell you that he wants to go overseas. His father was really happy that he went and was accusing Rugby Australia of disrupting his trying to block the deal happening. So yeah, it's I think it's really poor management, and I think that Rugby Australia had this issue for a very long time, and they still hasn't figured out to just focus on the game, focus on helping actually deliver a community support and stay out of politics, signaling, virtue signaling, and identity politics. At least like they haven't learned that from the Israel Folau problem in the past. And speaking of which, the Rugby Australia has replaced the president, which is what's his name, Joe Roth, with another Wallaby, former Wallaby, Nathan Sharp, as a new president. So I don't know how this is gonna go, but it is just what's been happening there. The deficit aside, we've already talked about the deficit from Rugby Australia, and so yeah, next up, there was some talks that again Toupou wants to go overseas. I'm not surprised. This was revealed by what's his name? This was revealed by Tim Horan, according to his sources. But the Toupou's agent has denied, and Toupou himself has denied that he's talking with a French club. I don't blame him. He hasn't. He does look like he doesn't want to be here anymore. Anyway, I feel like, and yeah, it's. I mean, surely, right? All the virtue signaling, you figure that a prominent Pacific Islander will want to be staying and playing for the Wallabies. Why isn't he? Right? Clearly, it's not they haven't done enough virtue signaling. You are not really connecting with the people that actually watches the game. Obviously not everyone, like the core audiences that you wanted to be attracting. You're clearly not doing that. Again, $35 million as well you spend, and you can't even keep your top talent. It is a bit of a very concerning. And the top job for Rugby Australia, Joe Schmidt's job is further move one step closer, I guess, with Les Kiss becoming the prominent frontrunner, with Dan McKellar basically stepping out saying, I'm not interested. He's ruled himself out after saying that he didn't get a phone call. And obviously the Waratahs hasn't performed to everybody's expectations, and he's basically ruled himself out from the contentions. Now, let's move on to South Africa and Matt Williams, everybody's favorite Australian pundit. He, again, was reiterating the danger of the 7-1/6-1 bench setup that was invented by Dr. Rassie Erasmus. And World Rugby last week has made a statement that after a study, they did a study, found that there's no evidence that 6-2 or 7-1 bench was dangerous or added any degree of additional danger to at the professional game. But what Matt Williams just won't have it. Despite research, he just won't have it. And he went on to speculate that Stephen Kitshoff's retirement due to his neck injury was the result of the 7-2, the bomb squad setup on the bench. And the Rassie Erasmus was really kind of I wouldn't say upset, was really baffled by this. Basically saying that, basically saying that, how can a 6-2 or 7-1 split contribute to Stephen Kitshoff's injury? Do we know? No, you don't. So basically saying that nobody knows if that's actually the reason contributed to his injury, and he's just speculating. And it's I think that Matt Williams has found himself in an awkward position because he's kind of put his own firm seal stamped approval on the safety problem of so-called safety problem of the bomb squad setup, and World Rugby has denied it with science, research and science, right? And now Matt Williams wants to put on his tinfoil hat and pointing out that something that the scientists of World Rugby are wrong. Jasper Wiese has ended his season for the year with a neck injury in Japan. So the South Africans have to look at potentially a new number 8, maybe Hanekom or something to come in for a new opportunity. Maybe Evan Ruiz will get more opportunity at the Springboks at the number 8 jersey. Now, next up, we've got there are some talks, obviously, for a couple of weeks now that Mane Lebok might go overseas. his contract is signed to 2027 to 2028, so he's still got a fair bit left in his contract. But it's reported this week that his team, the what's his name, the Stormers, the Stormers will not be stopping him taking a sabbatical to Japan or to England to play for the Leicester Tigers. So it's gonna be in a sabbatical sense, so that Man of the Block is still contracted technically with the Stormers, and they have not terminated his contract or granted him an early release, but he will be able to play, take some time off and go play somewhere else should he wish to do so. So that is a bit of a lifeline, and give him just freshen up a little bit to try a bit of different environment. I mean, you're a successful world-class player, and you wanted to take that talent, get yourself out there in the world as well. Speaking of French, there might be a bit of a shift in the French, selection policy for the July Test series. I've talked about this a lot in my channel, that I think the French are hurting themselves, not allowing their top players to play overseas, especially in July down here in the Southern Hemisphere, against basically the best teams in the world, like, the All Blacks. And, there were some talks that there's discussion this week that the French unions might allow some exemptions of the players to be available to play in New Zealand. Now, it's not going to be potentially the strongest team possible to go to New Zealand. It's going to be like a slightly better team than just a straight up B team to New Zealand, because this is an opportunity to play the All Blacks in New Zealand. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. Some of the French players themselves has expressed, like Intermac has expressed interest to go to New Zealand. I'm sure, for me, if I'm a professional player, it will be one of the greatest privilege to play against the All Blacks in New Zealand. It will be one of the greatest achievement to beat the All Blacks in New Zealand as well. And that's something that, as a professional rugby player, you would really want that under your belt at some point, if possible. And I think that the French unions are considering potentially losing up some of the restrictions. Not unions, but the club's restrictions to allow some of these players to go. Now, next up, I just want to point out, Geordie Barrett has really turned Irish. He's actually got like red beard and red hair. He's just straight up turned into Irish. Someone's gonna tell me that he's pretty much Irish anyway, but yeah, I don't remember him having reddish hair and beard, but this doesn't even look like Geordie Barrett anymore. That is so weird. But anyway, so moving on, speaking of more people going overseas from in New Zealand rugby, two big names has announced this week that are going overseas. One is Mark Telea, New Zealand All Blacks winger. He has decided to go to Japan starting next season, and yeah, he's basically saying that he's probably feeling the pressure of the winger position coming through in New Zealand rugby, and he kind of wants to he's kind of seen the writing on the wall and wants to make way and finish off his career with a bit more money in his pocket, essentially. But that's one big name. And another big name going overseas is that Rieko Ioane. Oh boy, this guy, his brother has already gone to Japan. Now he's heading off to Dublin next year, and I think to Leinster. I think that Leinster wants to replace Geordie Barrett with another All Black centre, but I think they're going to be a little bit surprised. Rieko Ioane is not that good. I mean, he used to be great, but he's not that good at the moment. But hey, Rieko, maybe, sometimes players not performing to their best just because they're like, feeling a bit stuck, feeling a bit, stale in terms of, mid-career crisis, I guess you could call it. And they just need to go overseas to freshen up a bit and get themselves back into the grind mindset, and then suddenly they'll be back at the level they were a few years ago. So I wouldn't rule him out completely as like a flop going overseas, because I think that Rieko is probably just a little bit burnt out here in New Zealand and wants a bit of a fresh air. He's still, very, very talented player. We know what he can offer. He's just not really quite in that same form at the moment. He's got 81 test cap for the All Blacks. I mean, absolute veteran already. He's again massive name going overseas. But I have a feeling that he might come back sooner than we all gonna be expecting. So then this kind of leaves the question to to a lot of the discussion about New Zealand rugby that is an All Blacks jersey losing their attractions to retain players. I think in some sense, yeah, this is kind of been happening for quite some time now. The performances hasn't been that great under Ian Foster, and then just went further downhill a bit. With Razor Robertson. So I think the pressure is on a lot of the players, especially the teams not performing. The expectations for the All Blacks jersey is so high, and it's like if you don't perform, you're gonna get just destroyed by the New Zealand media. And I think that yeah, it's difficult. It is really difficult. And back in the days, you have someone like Richie McCaw. That's like the backbone of the team that'll hold it together no matter what's happening. Today, Scotty Barrett, unfortunately, just hasn't been doing that for the team. It's not Scotty's fault, but it's just a really difficult situation for everyone. And Mark Robertson, the CEO, I don't think he's done a good job. Is putting the All Blacks teams games overseas and not really focusing on the core markets here in terms of playing the Anzac game, bolstering the interest in the Bulelus World Cup games. And I just think that overall he's done a terrible job for New Zealand rugby. And next year there's some talks there could be only one Bulelus World Cup game, and it could be played in Perth. And then it's if the All Blacks lose that one, you've ended like a winning like a 30-year not 30, it's like 25-year winning streak to a single game in Australia, all because of the fact that you want to go to South Africa for some more money for a tour. Yeah, it is bad decisions after bad decisions after bad decisions, and then especially after they selling off the stakeholder Silver Lake. I think that's pretty much the line that should not have been crossed, that was crossed. And I think that New Zealand rugby has really sold out a bit of the soul, the prestige of the jersey when they made that deal. Like it or not, mentally, if you're asking a player to give 100% to their country, to their heritage, to the prestige of the All Blacks culture, history, they will do that. But if he's saying that history and all that culture is partly owned by an American company, yeah, it's a little bit tougher for the players to buy into that, narrative of selfless sacrifice for the jersey, right? Anyway, that's my little bit of a rant, I guess. So it is rumored that Leo McDonald might be heading over to the Leicester Tigers to replace Michael Cheika. Next up, oh yeah, so in Ireland, I believe they had like a new deal that came out last year, maybe early this year, that they're gonna be paying some of the test players more money, like a I don't know, like a pay rise to the test players, and that has led to the rugby football unit. I thought initially they said they were gonna pay for it, but it looks like they're asking the provinces to pay for this in the end. So this is gonna be like a 40% rise in cost. So they're gonna ask the provinces to pay 40% of it, which is gonna be a 30% rise to the cost of how much they're currently paying to the four clubs. But yeah, let me know what's happening here. I'm actually not 100% sure what is going on, because I thought there was a deal that the IRFU was gonna pay like extra money to the national team players, because they're gonna have more games and all that sort of stuff. And now it looks like they're gonna, and then they basically was gonna cover that for the clubs, and it looks like they're not gonna do that anymore from this news. Anyway, let me know what is happening here. Someone yeah, so yeah, let me know what is happening here. Next up, Richie Mwanga has expressed strong interest in playing for the Anzac team at the Lions Tour, so that is good news for Sir Fozzie. Ibn Esmith, there were some rumors that he was going to retire due to a lot of injuries. Apparently not. He's going to be heading to play for the URC in Scotland and Ireland. So there was a guy Jeremy Leca has replaced Bill Sweeney from the RFU. A French CEO has replaced Bill Sweeney at the EPRC as the board member there in the EPRC at the European Professional Club Rugby, which is the Champions Club essentially. And then we've got RFU, sorry, not RFU, WFU, the Wales Rugby Union, as reported last week, is looking at bailing out Cardiff, who went under, and they reviewed that it's cost them $780,000 to buy over Cardiff club, which is one of the oldest clubs in Wales, if not the oldest, I think. And then the Wales Rugby Union also talking about cutting some jobs, some restructuring to free up some more money. They call the One Wales strategy, and it's going to free up £5 million annually savings. And apparently, to my surprise, this £5 million savings are only going to be saved by cutting just 20 jobs. So people are getting £250,000 a year for just doing, like, I don't know, apparently jobs that are not really required. Can just cut them, right? I mean, that is actually quite. I'm actually quite surprised that people are getting paid that much money and they're not even, they can just be cut and without any issues. Because £250,000 is a lot of money, and if that job can just be cut like that without any consequences, why was the job created in the first place? Yeah. So, Super Rugby, quick preview. First game of the weekend, Crusaders versus the Blues, old rivals, but I think the Blues are already not in the form right now, so I think the Crusaders should win this one. Cody Taylor is back in the starting position. This is absolutely the strongest Crusaders team you can probably think of. James O'Connor still on the bench, but yeah, David Havili, Ethan Blackadder, everybody is on. Scotty Barrett, Will Jordan, Samuel Reese, everybody is hands on board. David Havili, hands on board for this one against the Blues. The Blues, on the other hand, struggling quite a bit these days. Bowden Barrett retains number 10 jersey. Angus Tarver in the starting tight head. Pretty much, they look like they got themselves back into that rhythm a little bit with the forwards rumbling for points they did last week. So they're gonna have to try to do that physical strategy against the Crusaders. Crusaders also improved a lot around the breakdown, so the contest around the breakdown will be something to watch out for in this one. Fijian Jura versus Waratahs in La Toka. I think the Waratahs might struggle in the heat again. This might be a game that the Endurers might potentially win this one. They have moved Isikeli Rabitu into the fullback position, which is ahead of Caleb Muntz. Armstrong Ravula is still the number 10. And I think the Jurors might have a good chance here. Masaki Donge is starting at a tight end prop, and the Waratahs has rested pretty much their starting front row as well. Angus Bell, Tupou, even basically the starting front rowers has been rested for the Waratahs, and I think that again, I would not be surprised if the Waratahs scrum just gets absolutely demolished by the Fijian Endurers, because the Endurers have a pretty decent scrum nowadays. Suali'i still at the fullback position, and he's just going to be, again, I thought it was really outstanding as of last week, and I thought he played much more like a center than a fullback, but hey, it is David Keller making these decisions, and we shall say Paul Williams will be a New Zealand referee, so at least a neutral there. Moana Pacifica will be playing against the Brumbies. This will be a tough one at home. It's the return of the big boy, Julian Savia, with Adi Savia, his brother Adi Savia taking a break. I was hoping that we can see both the Savia brothers on the field at the same time, but we will not be given that privilege. So Julian, the bus, is back, and the Brumbies have opted for David Feli Uai at the outside center position to replace Len Ikitau. Had a bit of injury last week, and this is going to be difficult for Moana Pacifica, especially without Adi Savia. We'll have to see how big of an impact Adi was for the team. I have to see if the team can play at the same level, same physicality like they did in previous rounds, especially the upset in those upset games. Chiefs versus Highlanders. This will be a pretty good one as well. Chiefs last week was horrendous. Damien McKenzie, he's back at 10. He was not on the field last week. It was that bad. And Anton Linder-Brown coming back from injury will be coming off the bench. I was surprised that he's not putting at the starting position. Obviously an All Black player. And once again, the Chiefs has loaded up the bench quite a little bit. They've got Tao Kiaho off the bench, Cortez Ratama as well, to just try to finish the game with a bit more power. Highlanders, I thought was pretty, definitely getting better every week, and was decent performance last week. Looking forward to seeing Narake play, and also Ratu Mai Tavuki Nipkins was really outstanding last week as well for the Highlanders. Sam Gilbert coming to the bench, once again bringing a bit more experience. The Force, Western Force final game versus the Hurricanes. This will be a big one if the Western Force can win this. They might sniff some weakness out of the Hurricanes team. The Hurricanes hasn't really performed so far this season. Jeremy Williams, Darcy Swain in the centers, probably the strength of the Western Force 4-pack. But the Hurricanes do have Asafa Al-Moore and Tara Lomax in the front row starting this weekend, and Xavier Numia as well. Really, really good front rowers coming in for the Hurricanes. I think the Western Force, the scrum might be a struggle, but the lineouts might have a bit of an edge there over the Canes. I think that, this will be tough. Ruben Love has been surprisingly moved to the number 10 jersey from the fullback, with Caleb Harkin come in at the fullback position. And, the Hurricanes has loaded up the bench a little bit as well. Tossie coming off the bench, All Black, it's just, and Billy Proctor as well coming off the bench. So there will be some power both in the 4-pack and the back line to finish off the game. And I think that, this is going to be tough for the Western Force. They're going to have to grind their head, really grind this one out if they want to win. But they definitely have an opportunity because Hurricanes has not been in the tip-top form that they were in previous seasons. At home, the Western Force could potentially do an upset. Anyway, that's the news for this week. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about any of the articles. And I'll see you guys later for the reviews. Cheers.